Hi guys, I have a 2013 Chrysler Town and Country that I've had for a few years. Just hit 100,000 miles, and I'm just going to do an oil change on it today, and figured I'd make a quick video to show you all how to do it. It's pretty easy. I like to do my own oil changes still. I know you can take them to places nowadays, and it's probably not much cost savings to do it yourself, but I just like to do it. I like to know it's done right, so this is how I do it. So, okay, first of all, you don't really need to drive your vehicle up on top of ramps. Of course, you can do that if that's what you have. It gives you enough room to get under the vehicle and get the oil drain plug out. But I just drive up my van up onto a couple of like 2x10s or something, just enough to give me a few inches more clearance underneath there. It gives me plenty of room to get under the vehicle and get that drain plug out, but not go through the hassle of using ramps. And you know, the more level you can keep your car, the better. The more oil will drain out of there, but it's not critical, really. Just give yourself enough room to get under there. Okay, like any oil change, start the car up, let it warm up to operating temperature, get that oil nice and warm, especially if it's cold outside. It's right at about freezing temperature for me outside here in the Midwest today in December. So I let that vehicle warm up so that oil is warm enough to flow out when you take the drain plug out. I guess I'll show you what you need first. Obviously, you're going to need 6 quarts of oil. Manual says to use 5W20, and I use full synthetic Valvoline. I don't use anything super fancy. Do what you need to do. Choose your own oil. I'm not here to tell you what kind of oil to use and what brand of filter to use, but I just use a Fram Tough Guard filter. You can get these at Walmart or any auto parts store. Make sure you get the right one for your vehicle and engine size, of course. My van has the 3.6 engine in it. You'll need a funnel, put oil back in. You'll need a wrench or a socket to get the filter loose on this vehicle. It's a 15/16 size. And the wrench to get your drain plug loose is a 1/2 size. A couple other things you might need is a pick or some small screwdriver to get that rubber O-ring off of your oil filter housing cap, and a good size flathead screwdriver so that you can loosen up that clamp on your air filter inlet hose that we'll need to just get out of the way a little bit to help us get access to the oil filter. Also, after you get done with your oil change, you need to write down when you did it last to keep track of it. This may be a bit nerdy, but one tip for me and one thing I do for my vehicles, I just made a little maintenance log, basically, like a little table. And I wrote down, you know, I entered into the top there how much oil it takes, the kind of filter I need, and the wrench sizes. That way, next time I do it 6 months from now, I'm not going to have to fumble around and figure out what size wrench to use because I've got it right there. I can mark oil change, since that's the most common type of maintenance, or other if I do other kind of maintenance like brake pad changes or whatever, and the date there and the miles. This is a little overkill, but the point is, write down the last time you changed your oil somehow, either in your owner's manual or stick it in your glove box, or get those little window stickers so you know when to do it. Okay, step 1 is crack open your engine oil fill cap. Either remove it totally or just crack it open. That way air can come in there when you remove the drain plug underneath. Now we're going to go under the vehicle. Okay, to identify where the bolt is, it's on the back side of the oil pan. So the oil pan is this right here. And if you just feel around on the back side, you'll feel the drain bolt. It's right here. And like I said before, it's a 1/2 inch size wrench. And you'll need to have an oil drain pan around you. Probably a good idea to have a rag or two around. And I wear rubber gloves just so I don't get oil on my hands, but that's, you know, if you don't necessarily need those, just have a rag handy. Okay, so get your 1/2 inch wrench. Make sure you know which way is the proper way to turn it. Lefty loosey. And it shouldn't be very tight. Oil plugs don't tend to be that tight. There you go. Doesn't take much. And you can just use your fingers the rest of the way. Make sure you have a oil drain pan handy under there, and just take the bolt out, let the oil drain. There you go. Okay, as that oil is draining, you might as well clean up your drain bolt. Just make sure the threads aren't all boogered up. And if you use the right size wrench, you shouldn't have any issues with, you know, stripping it out or anything like that. So clean it up. Yep, it should be fine to reuse it. Okay, set that where it'll be handy for you to reinsert it later. Okay, while that oil's draining, we're going to find our oil filter housing up top here. Now these cars have the filter on the top side, and it's in sort of a plastic housing, a little different than most of your older cars with the old school canister type filter. But anyway, the filter is located right down here underneath the intake, right there. And that's where that 15/16 socket or wrench is going to come in handy to break this loose. To get to it, you can do it. I have done it before as is. It makes it difficult though. So I preferred to remove this air intake housing, or I mean hose, off of here. So just take yourself a flathead screwdriver, loosen up this screw that holds this metal band clamp on. That'll let you pop this off so that you can move it out of the way. You'll probably also have to remove this smaller hose. It just pushes onto the air filter housing. So just remove that, remove this. That'll let us move it up out of the way, get ourselves a little bit better access. Okay, we're gonna remove this hose right here. It should just come off pretty easily. Be careful, especially if it's cold outside and things are brittle. You don't want to break that plastic fitting off of here. Okay, that's off. Now we're gonna take a flathead screwdriver and just loosen this clamp. That should be plenty, and that should allow this to come right off. And there you go, it's off. And now we can move these up out of the way. Just a few inches is really all we need. Now you can remove this hose off the bottom side as well. It's not very hard to remove, and it gives you more access, but I found that I don't really need to do that. Okay, if you've got any dirt or grime down in here, now's a good time before you remove this filter to get rid of it. Take a rag and clean off the dirt and maybe blow on it. Take an air compressor and blow on it if you need to get some of that dirt off. You don't want the dirt falling down in the filter housing. Now, just a reminder, here's the new filter I bought. The filter that's going to come out of that filter housing is pretty long, and it's going to have oil in it. So when you pull it out of there, you're probably going to drip some oil. So a tip I've learned in the past, go ahead and take some paper towels or rags and just stuff down in there underneath around that filter housing, just to make your cleanup effort way easier. It's just going to drip onto these paper towels, you know, cover up the wire bundle harnesses, all that kind of stuff. That way you don't have much of a mess to clean up. There we go. Now I'm going to go ahead and just take, it shouldn't be very tight, but my 15/16 socket on there, and just crack it loose. There we go, it's loose. Now, again, make sure your rags are in place and just go ahead and remove that. And have somewhere handy to put it on when you pull it out, like a rag or a drain pan. There it goes. And you see how obviously the oil spilled out like I thought it would, but because I have these rags here, I caught it. Okay, so now we just need to clean up our filter cap. So the old filter will pull right out of there. It's just held in there with these plastic tabs on top. Now just clean it up, take a rag and clean up your housing. Okay. Also, your new filter should come with an O-ring, a new O-ring here. I'm going to leave it in the package until so I don't mix it up. But take the old O-ring off using a pick or a little screwdriver. Be careful not to damage the plastic housing. There's the old one. Get rid of that. Get your new one. And put on there and well, let's clean out the groove it goes in. Okay. And just be careful with it. You don't want to stretch it too much. You don't want to tear it for sure. And there it is in place. You've got your cleaned up housing and your new O-ring on. You're ready to go back together. Then we take our filter. The plastic tabs go down inside of the filter housing. It's pretty self-explanatory there. But you should hear it click together. Just like that. It holds it in there for you, so when you put it together, it stays together. Okay, I do like to put just a tiny amount of fresh motor oil on the O-ring just so that it when you reinsert it on there, it seals well and it slides well together. Don't go overboard with it. You don't need really much of anything, just barely. Something like that is fine. And use the new oil, not your old grimy oil. Okay, now we're going to put the filter back in there, and I'm just going to leave my rags alone so that I don't pull them out and potentially pull dirt with it. I'm just going to leave them in place, and our new housing, or I mean our new filter, should go right in there. And just be very careful to get it threaded in there straight. And remember, this is just a plastic housing. It is not very strong. When we tighten it, we don't need to tighten it very much. So get it hand tight. And I'm sure it has a torque value, but I don't mess with that. Just use common sense. Again, it's plastic, and you probably have a giant wrench. It's not going to take very much pressure to get it tight enough. So just get it, just tweak it barely, and don't over tighten it, or else you'll be in for a long day of replacing housings. And that's probably all I need, just a little tweak. I've got like 2 fingers on this wrench, and that's all I care to do. Remember, this filter is on the top. It's probably not very prone to leaking. It's above most of the oil. Okay, now I can get my rags out of here and make sure I didn't get any oil anywhere, and it looks really good to me. I'm all clean, so I can go ahead and put my air intake hose back on the filter housing. Just like that. And I'll tighten up the band clamp before I forget. Then I'll press this other hose on before I forget. And that, I'm all done up top. Remember, my oil's been draining this whole time down underneath the vehicle. It's probably done by now. Okay, so I'm back underneath the vehicle, and you can see my oil is pretty much done draining. I could let it drip a little bit longer if I had plenty of time, but that's plenty good enough for as far as I'm concerned. So To get it to stop dripping, I'm just going to start my cleaned up drain bolt, a couple of threads. And this is a really critical part of changing oil in any car. Make sure you get the drain bolt in there straight. You don't want to get it cross-threaded or get it in there crooked. If it starts to feel hard to turn and it doesn't feel right, it probably is not right. So take it back out, try to get it in there straight until you get it threading in there very easily. I'm just going to start it a couple threads. That's probably good enough for now. That will let me be able to clean it before I tighten it the rest of the way. So at this point I can move my drain pan out of the way and just clean it up. Take a rag and really get that oil off of there. When you're happy it's pretty clean, go ahead and hand tighten your bolt the rest of the way. And we're going to tighten it up. Again, you don't need a very big wrench. If you get a giant wrench or ratchet, you're probably going to over tighten it and you'll be in trouble the next time you have to change your oil because it'll be stuck. Remember, your drain pan is not very thick metal. It's not going to hold up to a high amount of pressure on tightening this. So it doesn't have to be very tight. Go check your manual for the torque value if you want to use a torque wrench. But again, you don't need much. One hand will do it. Get it pretty tight. Enough to where it won't fall out or leak, but don't grab it with two hands and pull on it with all your might because you'll strip it right out. Okay, I'm plenty happy with that. I've got no drips. I'm done down here. Okay, get yourself a clean funnel in place up top to fill the oil up. Have a rag handy just in case. And then it takes 6 quarts. So these jugs, big jugs of oil, hold 5 quarts, which is annoying because you need some more than that. So I'm going to put all of this one in plus about 1 quart I have in another jug. And that should be it. I'm going to take my funnel out and put the oil cap on. I should be all done. Okay, I'm going to start up the van and immediately check for leaks both underneath and at the filter. Looks good underneath. Looks good around the filter. Don't forget to get that drain pan out from underneath. Okay, to reset your oil change light inside, you get in the car without pressing the brake pedal. If you have keyless entry like me or keyless start, you just press the start button once to go to the, and press it again to go to the run position. And depress the accelerator 3 times within 10 seconds. 1, 2, 3, and then press the off button again to turn it off. That should be the process to reset it, according to the manual. Last but not least, don't forget to write down the mileage on your van when you did your oil change so that you'll know for next time. They're due about every 10,000 miles, but your vehicle maintenance system there will tell you when it's due. My van just hit 100,000, but I hope to go another 100. So keep doing your own maintenance and keeping track of what needs done, and you'll be in good shape. And I hope this video helped some folks out, and hope you enjoyed it. Thanks.